if we think about the question, so it's going to be compare how the writers use language and context. Yeah, go for it. There's loads over here actually. I could actually just quite easily just pass it over.
Oh, this is nice paper. You can tell that there's a different quality. What about the pink ones and the blue ones then? The blue ones about that. Yeah. And it's nice.
So with the questions, how do the writers use language and context to describe the events? It's not exactly what you're going to get, but it's going to be closer to it. Okay, thinking about our assessment objectives, we've got AO1, AO2, AO3 and AO4. What's AO1?
Knowledge. Compare
2?
Oh, it's not knowledge. Meaning.
Meaning. Whose meaning?
Our meaning.
Your meaning and the meaning that the writer wants to give across. AO3?
Context. Yeah.
4?
Compare and contrast. Uses language and
Context. It's a rough estimation of what you're going to get in the exam. It's not perfect, but it'll do for today. So the question then is going to be able to give you all of those 4 assessment objectives. Okay? Where do you think AO1 is?
describe the what?
Events. Where's AO1? Where you need to show knowledge and stuff.
So kind of like, is that the outline of what happens?
Not necessarily, but the knowledge is your linguistic knowledge.
Oh, right, okay.
Your knowledge of language, knowledge of the text as well. So part of the question, where is AO1 going to be ticked off? So if you just look at the question here, which words here tick off AO1?
How?
Yep. What else?
Language and context. Or just language and context, not the theory.
Yep, I wouldn't do both of them.
The writers.
This bit is context, because context is about the influences on the writer's choices. So context is going to be about your writer. Okay. But, so this one we've got a little bit of AO3 because of the writer, but how they've used that for a purpose, haven't they? So that's going to be AO2. Any AO4? Compare. If I had other colours, then this would be a little bit clearer. What else? What about the last ones to describe the event?
Describing.
Yeah. Okay. So that also comes into AO3 because the describing bit is the AO2 because they want to give an impression of what's happening. They want to present it in a certain way. And the events are going to be AO3. So his response to what's going on around him and therefore how that's going to affect him. Okay? So when we annotate a text, and I told you I was going to drill this to you, What's the order of the assessment objectives that we use? How do we go about annotating?
AO1.
Yeah, so you look for your stuff first, then you...
Then meaning.
Yeah, then we work out what that might tell us. It's exactly how we've gone through it together. Then we question... AO3 as to why would he have done that? What influences has that led him to make those choices? And then we look at AO4. Okay, AO4 is going to be your second text, your unseen text. We're not doing that today because we're not ready yet. Okay, when we write about it, what's the order, roughly? Start with meaning. And then? AO1 and? AO3. And then it moves us into AO4. But again, we're not ready to do that because we haven't got our second text. Okay? What this is avoiding us doing is, when we write about it, feature spotting. Okay? If you can tell me about the meaning, tell me what has he done, what has he created, what meaning are we dealing with? So this then becomes the what. These two become the how has that been, how is that achieved? How has he been influenced? How has he used his words in order to achieve this? The AO4 becomes the where. Where else are you going to take this? Where are you going to make that comparison? Okay. The so is the bridge. That's the why. What has he done? What meaning have you got from it? What do you know? What do you learn? How has he done that? How has he influenced? How did that affect the choices that he was making? But so, why? Why did he have that in order to create this? What ultimately is going to be his intention? What was his purpose? So you go back into the meaning and then you develop even further. Okay? This is also the why. Yeah? What else do we need to consider or have in the back of our mind when we look at a text? What was the acronym that we came up with? We had about 5 on the board.
CARP.
Good,
Context,
okay.
audience, reception, and purpose.
Good, and you've done exactly what I wanted you to do. You've gone back into your notes to go, oh, we did this, and then you found the information rather than picking off from the top of your head, okay? So context. What was the other one?
Audience.
Audience. Next one.
Reception.
This is your readership. Okay, so it's the reader influence. Okay, this is, historical documents. The audience is who they're writing to, and for. This is the effect on that audience and what we learn from it. Basically, it's going to be us. Last one.
Purpose.
Purpose. What I don't want to see is to have a CARP or a GAP or a PFAC paragraph. All of this needs to come into there somehow. Okay? The exam board do not like, and they frequently comment on it, they do not like to have opening paragraphs where you give a potted history of the writer or the story. So don't feel that you need to tell the examiner what Samuel Pepys is doing. in any kind of detail. Your understanding, your appreciation and acknowledgement of what he's doing, why he's doing it, who he's doing it for, what he's wanting to achieve, should naturally come through what you're saying. Okay? So you cannot and you shouldn't compartmentalise your context. And if you have a look at the question, AO3 and here and AO2 tied together, AO1 and AO3 tied together, and then again AO2 and AO3 here tied together. So being able to separate them like that is really, really artificial. That's why we annotate like that. But when we then make those additional annotations, you should get this coming through. Okay, so when you write about it, that can be quite holistic, quite jumbled together, so long as you're not starting with a quote or starting with a feature, because you're simply feature spotting. You tell me the impact, you tell me that meaning. Okay, so we've got 10 minutes left. What I'd like to do is have a go at drafting just possibly the opening or the starting paragraph or the opening of a paragraph that helps us answer that question, and then your prep is done to finish it, to finish the response for next week. Okay? I'll limit how much you've got to do, so probably only doing 2 or 3 further points, just to kind of ease you in to make sure that we've at least got the structure of how we write about it sorted before I then throw a massive exam question at you.
Is there a word limit? Because with Mrs. Poole's homework, and she gives us an essay, she gives like 250 words minimum.
No, the reason she gives you that word limit is that you have to do a commentary in your Gatsby paper, which is a 50-word commentary on your own creative writing. With me in the coursework this time next year, you will have to do a 150-word introduction to your creative writing, but for the exams, you're limited by time. So really, what we need to do is we need to have 1 point per paragraph. Whether you then develop the point, you have lots of different examples, that's fine, but each paragraph represents effectively one idea. Okay? You get 2 texts in the exam, you get, for example, Pepys and then one other. It's only an hour, so you don't have a huge amount of time to overwrite. So you're probably looking at 3, maybe 4, 5 if you can write fast, points per text, which isn't a huge amount. So all I want you to do is do half of your exam question.
Okay, what's the coursework?
The coursework is a whole year next year.
Okay.
That's you don't need to worry about that. We'll start talking about that a little bit more in January, because you'll need to start warming up and some reading. So, how does Pepys use language and context to describe the events? How are you going to start? What do you want to say?
So I have no idea where to start.
It doesn't matter where you start. You don't have to start at the beginning. If you've got a particular point, when he describes it in this way, he gives the impression that the fire is this, he feels that having dinner is more important because it's inconsequential. It doesn't matter where you start. You don't have to feel that you've got to start with the first word. I'll give you the opening, because sometimes being faced with a piece of blank page is a real hurdle. So, Samuel Pepys Pepys's diary functioned as a personal and ultimately private account of his normal existence. His record of the Great Fire of London, bless you, reveals that, bless you, how did he respond to it?
With weeping.
So this one, let's describe the emotion, then go into what's going on, okay? So we're still dealing with what we know he responds. So what do you know about how he responds? What does this reveal either about the fire or Pepys? Because this is the writer describing the event. So it's about what we learn about the event, but equally what we learn about the writer and their relationship with the event they're describing. So this record of the Great Fire of London reveals that, did he go from one thing to another? Did he swing from one attitude of it towards another?
Yeah, at the start he wasn't bothered by it.
Reveals that Pepys wasn't particularly concerned about the flames initially. However, the impact of the disaster caused Pepys to weep. Now, what have we done so far? So, as an examiner, which assessment and objective am I going to go? Okay, yeah, all right then.
You got the what? What is the diary about?
Yeah, so that we've got a little bit of
Doesn't that come into knowledge though?
can do. Yeah, so we've got the knowledge of the genre. That's AO1. Okay, so you've got AO1 genre. So make a note of that you're doing as well. So this is what the examiner would then pick up on. So we've got AO1 genre. What else?
We started giving the how it affected him. Because we haven't put in like evidence of it yet.
But yeah, we don't need to just yet. I mean, we're kind of warming ourselves up. And what we're doing is we're almost telling the story of our understanding of Pepys. We're not telling the story of the fire, but this is what we call quite a narrative analysis. I'm quite narrative in my analysis naturally. I like telling stories. So this is quite a narrative way. You don't have to be hard-hitting in the way that we write about it at all. But what this is doing is quite a lot. So we've got Samuel Pepys' diary functioned as a personal, ultimately private account of his normal existence. Well, that's AO1 genre. That's also a little bit of context as well, isn't it? The record of the Great Fire of London reveals Pepys wasn't particularly concerned about the flames. We've got meaning here as well now, haven't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got AO2, which is also being informed by a little bit of AO3 going on. Then we talk about the flames initially, however the impact of the disaster caused Pepys to weep. Is there an indication that actually we get the full sense of the diary entry, and we are already acknowledging that there is a shift between what happened at the beginning to what happened at the end? That's called a discourse shift. That's AO1 and AO2. So in the first 4.5 lines, we've actually done quite a lot. And we haven't gone anywhere near analysing language yet. But what we haven't done is we haven't told the story. We haven't given a potted history. We've demonstrated that we understand the genre, we understand his reaction to it, and we understand that there is a change in his writing. And it's all affecting our meaning. In 4.5 lines. That's pretty good. So at the moment, this is probably a level 4. C-ish. At the moment. Which you should feel really rather chuffed about. At the moment.
C is passing.
And we're in what, week 6? And potentially we're tracking C's? Nicely done. So what we now need to do, okay, is then start looking at some of that niff-naff and trivia. Now we can get our teeth going. Now we can really, really start having some fun. Okay? So we can start talking about the word weep. So we need to use words like connotations, imply, the implications of. So all that terminology, all of those words that we've been using, we can now go to town. Okay? Don't overdo it. Remember, we need to make that judgment call as to whether we're going to go into that really, really fine analysis of word class, syntax order, grammatical constructions. Meaning is the flag bearer. We're then going to work out how we get to that point. Okay? Make sense? So, very quickly, for the last 2 minutes, let's talk about this idea of weeping.
Implications of mourning.
Nice. The implications of mourning here of Pepys's mourning over what?
The suffering of London.
The loss of London? The loss of what in particular? Look at the last sentence.
Churches, houses.
And the city.
All on fire.
Yeah. The implications of Pepys's mourning over the loss of the all. The implications of Pepys's mourning over the loss of the churches, houses, all. So we're embedding our quote here. You don't have to go in the quote. You're not allowed to use the word quote. It's banned. Okay. The implication of Pepys's mourning over the loss of the churches, houses, all. So the implication of that. What is the significance of that?
That's the significance of the fire.
Which he didn't anticipate
At the beginning.
at the beginning when he called it. Could you use the been unused to such fires as followed? The anaphoric reference there. At the top, 5th line in. Slipping on the nightgown. Remember what we said about that? There is no sense of urgency. There's no. Yeah. Okay. Simply, it's Pepys's mourning. What did you say?
No sense of urgency.
Is a stark contrast to his lack.
Can we say his previous lack of urgency?
Yep. Earlier lack of urgency? Previous, earlier? To his previous lack of urgency at the opening of the entry. Describing his Do we want to have slipped on the nightgown? Do we want to have been unused to such fires?
Being unused to such fires. Yeah, but then if he was unused to it, wouldn't he be more worried about it? Because it's something he's not used to.
But he says, been unused to such fires as followed. I thought it far enough off.
You could just use that quote, I thought it was far enough off.
You can do, yeah. So, I'm going to write ... So what I'd like you to do is have a go at finishing that. Take your time, don't overdo it, don't rush it. So really, probably what we're doing is a couple of paragraphs.